Well, I don't need any of these. Let's see. It's a lot about education. I don't need any of that. Music is not something you can use words to describe. Music is either in the air and you find it, or it is in the air and you don't find it, but you just don't try hard enough. You can be educated to play the piano, you can be educated about chords, you can be educated about scales, you can be educated about everything there is to do with music, and you are still zero until you let go of what holds you back. And all of us could possibly not be held back, but most of us don't let it happen. My job, in my opinion, is to let it out. But I don't believe that there's any rules. There are no rules. So you need to, gather a bunch of stuff together, and then you go, sorry, what does my left hand do best? Well, why don't I ask my left hand? That's what I was trying to say there. I didn't realize that for a long time. But anyway, you've heard too many words tonight, and I would really like my message to only be music cannot be expressed or delivered in words. Education is one thing. I don't believe there are masters. I believe there are students. Some students work harder than others. In jazz, the narrative is what carries the music forward, and the narrative is the players playing. And that's what, if somebody hears I could name too many people, I don't want to choose one out of the list. If you hear something and it changes you, it's because what you heard was someone who became an innovator, and they became an innovator by hard work on themselves. Not so much work on the instrument. If I get students and I ask them what they want, they usually say, I want to play like you. And I say, I can't teach that. I don't want to teach this. Do you know how many chiropractors I need? You know I carry my own mattress with me on tour? Why would I teach anyone to kill themselves? You have to be crazy enough to feel it and do it, and not even notice that you're doing it. So I teach someone how to jump up and down on stage, or I teach them how to move in a strange way and hold their hands completely wrong and screw up their body. I have a film of myself playing with Charles Lloyd, and I can see what my hands are doing, but I can't see my head. My head was whipping around at such a fast pace that, even the film is just a blur. It's not a head. Okay, so I wish I had only a few words to say. I was going to say something about my mother. Let me do that. And I'll never take 45 minutes of your time. I'm going to guarantee that I will not take 45 minutes. When I was 2 years old, I played on the kitchen table with celery sticks. So my first instrument was the drums. Then I ended up with a drum set, and eventually found myself playing to the Ahmad Jamal White album because there was so much space in the music. I could actually, I didn't mess with it. It was just hanging there beautifully. But when I was 2, I did the celery stick thing, and my mother discovered at also the same age that I was playing along with melodies coming from the radio, and she thought, well, this is strange. and found a teacher who would teach a 3-year-old. But if I had asked her, Mom, I want to be a jazz master when I grow up, she would have said, you can be anything you want. Now, my father would have said, why would you want to be a musician? Musicians can't make a living. And in fact, he did say that. He did say that until finally I was well known and he saw that I was making a living. But then he said, you don't have insurance on your house? Yes, I said, well, but Dad, that's just like me, isn't it? Okay, I'll get insurance. So I got insurance. But my mother's saying that you can be whatever you want to be. She was the liberal in the family. My mother and my father was a conservative. I have to give her credit tonight because 5 minutes before I left the house, she's 94, 5 minutes before I left my house, I gave her a call. And she still sounds like a kid. She's unbelievable. And so I thanked her, and actually I wanted to thank her in front of people. My father is not alive now. So back to the music for a minute. Jazz is a narrative. It goes from one player, how many tenor players suddenly sound like Coltrane after Coltrane dies? Every single one for a while. It's like they're trying to be this guy. No, that isn't what Coltrane would have wished. Coltrane would have wished they learned to be themselves. I think he used to get to the gig early and practice for hours before they even started to play. And all this is really wrong of me to continue talking because the first thing I said is correct. The music cannot be anything but itself. You can't actually, I went to Berkeley, I got kicked out of Berkeley. Let's see, does that make me a potential jazz master? No. I had a trio that was made up of dropouts from Berkeley. Oh, that's a bad sign. That means education and Keith don't get along very well. And then I got fired from my first job with the trio because somebody came up to me and said, can you play something bouncy? I thought that's what we were doing. I thought it was pretty bouncy. But I got fired, and before I was fired, we had one last night in our apartment, the trio, and we were playing anything that made a sound in the apartment and recording it. So it was like avant-garde brooms and wastebaskets and garbage cans. And it was a moment I won't forget. And neither was the getting fired thing because it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful to be fired from that gig. That wasn't what I was meant to do. How I got out of Allentown, where I was born, many gifts have been given to me, and I've accepted them one at a time as they came, and I'm just lucky. I'm lucky to have said, okay, I'll accept this, I'll take this, I'll do this. And now I'm busy thinking of how much there is to transform in music and how mediocre the world can become. The world outside of music is becoming a bunch of screens. People are becoming used to I can't say bad sounds, but they're used to, they don't know what they're listening to anymore. Back when there wasn't so much media, I mean, people went out looking for a musical experience, and they'd go to a record store, and as in my case, luckily the New York City Public Library rented records. And I heard every composer, every musician that I never heard of, I rented from the library. And the last thing I'm going to say, I hope, because I can talk 45 minutes now that I think about it. As a matter of fact, I thought in the beginning, before I came here, I thought, I got about 45 ways to come at this. And if I start with one of them, it's going to connect to the rest of the 44 ways, and it will never stop. So I forgot actually what I was going to say. Hey, that's very good though, see, because if you're about to play a chord, if you're about to play a chord that you're familiar with from the past, and you've heard yourself play it before, and that's when you forget it, that's perfect. That's improvisation. But of course, in real life, if you're saying something for the only time you get a chance to say it, and you forget it, nah, it's not so good.